As the hand seal emerged, ethereal flames surged from the center of old Vermilion Bird's brow, spreading outward in waves before merging into the seal. In an instant, the seal burst into a flicker of firelight, and as it fused and reshaped, it transformed into a fiery bone, roughly 10 feet long. Calling it a bone was perhaps inaccurate. This bone resembled a staff, perfectly straight and without curvature. The moment the fire bone appeared, a grave look flashed in old Vermilion Bird's eyes. With a swift motion, he formed another hand seal. From his fingers bloomed a series of illusory seals that turned into threads of light. These threads didn't spiral around the fire bone, but instead shot straight to its top and extended outward. From a distance, the construct formed by old Vermilion Bird's divine art looked oddly familiar. If oiled paper were spread across it, it would resemble nothing less than a mundane umbrella used on rainy days in the mortal world. Wang stared unblinkingly. He watched as old Vermilion Bird cast two distinct sets of hand seals. The first contained precisely 999 seals, all conjured in a breath's time. The second surpassed the first by far, totaling exactly 9,999 seals. Yet throughout it all, the heavens and earth remained completely still. Not a single fluctuation of primordial energy stirred. The clouds and winds did not reverse. The surroundings were utterly silent. Even the lake's surface remained calm, undisturbed by the slightest ripple. It was as if nothing had changed. After completing both sets of seals, old Vermilion Bird's expression grew even more solemn. He took a deep breath, eyes shining with strange light. Then, with a sudden motion, he formed seals with both hands simultaneously. At once, light erupted, piercing through the lake's perimeter and sweeping out in all directions, limitless, boundless. His hands moved faster and faster, without pause. One seal after another burst forth, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. The chaos of hand seals was dizzying to behold. Old Vermilion Bird's hands moved too fast for the naked eye to follow. Even divine sense was obstructed by a strange force emanating from his body. With a low roar to the heavens, old Vermilion Bird's millionth hand seal was unleashed. The instant they converged, the seals stirred the very heavens, transforming into a violent storm that roared toward the firebone. In a flash, the storm merged with the firebone, engulfing it and hurling it into the sky. Wang gasped sharply, head jerking upward. His pupils shrank abruptly. High above, beneath the swirling storm, something emerged, like an enormous umbrella, not yet unfurled. Ethereal flames swirled around it, forming the shapes of countless fire dragons that howled and writhed. The entire sky looked as though it had been overtaken by fire dragons, their furious roars echoing outward. This scene could be clearly seen from every corner of the Emperor Star. Burning world, ancient umbrella. Old Vermilion Bird roared. The world shuddered at his words, and the storm ceased its rotation, hanging still in midair, motionless. A crushing pressure slowly descended from above. Across the land, vegetation bowed under its weight, releasing thick mists. In the lake, fish darted frantically as the water bubbled like it was about to boil. Cracks split open the ground, fine and dense like shattered pottery. All cultivators who witnessed this scene felt their blood begin to dry and burn within their veins. In the starry sky above, space itself began to twist. The static storm seemed to strain the fabric of reality, its distortion spreading until it reached nearly half of the entire land of falling stars. All planets caught beneath its shadow showed signs of apocalyptic desolation, as if enduring a drought that had lasted 10,000 years. Old Vermilion Bird's breath grew ragged. It was clear that unleashing this divine art came at a tremendous cost to him. The first set, 999 hand seals. The second, 9,999. As for the third and fourth sets, each totals an overwhelming 990,000. All of them must be cast within the span of 9 breaths. Every single seal contains my own primordial yang of the soul, along with the full extent of my cultivation. Only when combined with a specific incantation can it give birth to the ultimate technique of our Vermilion Bird clan, the Burning World Ancient Umbrella. If even one seal goes awry, the backlash will be unimaginable. Even with my cultivation at the mid-profound void stage, I would suffer grievous wounds. If a non-fire cultivator were to attempt it, it could lead to Tao dissipation. This technique was passed down from the ancient immortal venerable. I once heard from the first-generation ancestor that, long ago, the immortal venerable used it to annihilate an entire realm of myriad trillions, thus it was named the Burning World Art. In the hands of the ancient immortal venerable, this was one of the most formidable divine arts. I do not know if it still qualifies as part of Taoist arts, but the first-generation ancestor once said, The burning world ancient umbrella, once opened 9 times, brings 9 destructions of the world. Back then, when the immortal Venerable destroyed that realm, he opened the umbrella 8 times. The 9th he dared not unleash. Even the ancestor, with cultivation reaching the early void tribulation stage, could only open it 5 times. As for me, because the primordial yang of my soul has never once been broken in tens of thousands of years, I can fuel it with my inner sun. At the mid-profound void stage, I can open the umbrella twice. This technique was never meant to be passed on. Its danger is simply too great. One misstep brings catastrophe. The first-generation ancestor also said the art is incomplete, possibly stolen by the immortal Venerable back then. But your comprehension is extraordinary. Whether you take this path or not is yours to decide. The words of the old Vermilion Bird rushed out quickly, and Wang Lin stared intensely at the still storm in the sky, which resembled an unopened umbrella. His mind was shaken by the old Vermilion Bird's words. He had initially thought that the technique passed down by the old Vermilion Bird was merely a Taoist art, but he never imagined it would be a divine art of such unimaginable power. 8 openings of the umbrella, annihilating tens of billions of lives in a single realm. Can this even be considered a divine art? The old Vermilion Bird's breathing became even more hurried, and with a wave of his right hand, the storm in the sky, which had been still, suddenly trembled and showed signs of dissipating. This technique can only be passed on to you up to this point. It cannot be casually unleashed. Once opened, it will cause immense damage to this place. The old Vermilion Bird bit his tongue, spitting out blood from his mid-profound void stage cultivation. The blood transformed into a raging sea of burning blood mist, which swept toward the storm. After merging with it, the storm slowly began to dissipate. It wasn't until half an incense stick later that the storm finally disappeared from the world. Everything in the Emperor's star slowly returned to normal, and the distortions in the starry sky gradually eased. Though this moment didn't last long, it sent a chill down Wang Lin's spine, and his eyes gleamed with excitement. Even without witnessing the full force of the technique, Wang Lin could faintly sense its immense power, and his heart raced faster and faster. It wasn't until the world had fully returned to normal that the old Vermilion Bird sighed in relief, his expression gradually calming. With a flick of his right hand, a jade slip appeared and shot toward Wang Lin. This jade slip contains all the hand seals and the method to open the umbrella. You must memorize them quickly and without error, then destroy the slip immediately. The old Vermilion Bird said, sitting cross-legged to one side, closing his eyes to meditate and regulate his breathing. Wang Lin took the jade slip, his gaze shifting over it. The scene of the old Vermilion Bird performing the technique just now flashed in his mind. Wang Lin's heart stirred. In his life, he had rarely been moved by any treasure or technique, let alone by an extraordinary heartbeat. But this time, his heart truly thudded with excitement. Having devoted his life to studying restrictions, he was a master within that domain. For others, casting nearly 2 million hand seals within 9 breaths would be an immensely difficult task. Indeed, 9 breaths was far too short. But Wang Lin had already encountered such challenges when he formed his core. To cast restrictions at high speed under pressure was something he had practiced for a long time. Some restrictions could only be set or undone in the blink of an eye, requiring the rapid release of many hand seals in a single moment. Thus, while it posed difficulty for others, it wasn't an insurmountable hurdle for Wang Lin. What truly shook him was the meaning behind the old Vermilion Bird's words and the origin of this burning world ancient umbrella. It seems the technique was first learned by the ancient immortal emperor, who stole it, but it's incomplete. Wang Lin took a deep breath, his eyes flashing with shock. Though there was the word seems, implying uncertainty, if it were true, the meaning was staggering. This technique, who originally created it? Where did the ancient immortal emperor steal it from? If this incomplete technique is powerful enough to annihilate the world, what would happen if it were complete? Wang Lin raised his head silently, staring at the sky. Faintly, it felt as though he was once a mere mortal, gazing at the heavens, feeling his insignificance. What is my cultivation now worth? How vast is this sky truly? What lies beyond the heavens? After a long pause, Wang Lin let out a deep sigh, a spark of determination glinting in his eyes. The more he learned, the more insignificant he felt, but rather than sinking into despair, this only ignited his resolve. It was just like what he had said before to the first-generation Vermilion Bird. I can do it too. I, Wang Lin, can do it. I, Wang Lin, why can't I? In this world, Some are born mortal, some immortal, some fall beneath, others rise above. The universe gives birth to all things, each different, and though the world is vast and unfair, it is also deeply fair. If someone can create such a divine art, if someone can cultivate to such an unimaginable level, I, Wang Lin, can do it too. Perhaps I lack innate talent, but that will never be a stone in my path. Today, I will learn the burning world divine art, a technique passed down through the ancient immortal emperor, stolen and left incomplete. But one day, I will make others learn my technique, Wang Lin's technique. Wang Lin's expression grew firm. There were no loud roars, no shouts, only a quiet inner vow, as if etched into his heart. Perhaps this was his true vow. Closing his eyes, Wang Lin immersed his entire mind into the jade slip in his hand, engraving all the hand seals deeply into his memory, leaving behind the seal to open the umbrella. The jade slip in his hand shattered with a loud crash, turning to ash that dispersed into the wind, flying toward the horizon. It seemed to symbolize Wang Lin's vow, flying farther and farther. The fire sparrow constellation, with the old ancestor amidst the distorted starry sky, took a step forward, his eyes gleaming with ecstatic joy. In the blink of an eye, he rushed toward the depths of the cultivation star, toward the fiery region surrounded by flames. The speed was so fast that in the blink of an eye, they reached the place where he had secluded himself for years. Here, the temperature of the flames was terrifyingly high, and even a single spark could incinerate a cultivator's body, causing them to perish. However, the fire sparrow patriarch showed no discomfort at all and held Lu Jinbiao as they quickly approached. Lu Jinbiao's expression was as dark as water, coldly gazing at the fire sparrow patriarch with no hint of emotion. At this moment, he had completely immersed himself in the situation, forgetting his past. He had even deceived himself, believing that he, Lu, was the sixth-generation Vermilion Bird. After experiencing the weight of power for so long, he had been captured by a surprise attack from the Fire Sparrow clan. But even so, as the sixth-generation Vermilion Bird, his dignity remained. Even in the face of life-threatening danger, he would never beg for mercy. At the entrance of the Fire Sparrow Patriarch's secluded place, there was a blurry door. This door was entirely illusory, hidden within the flames. Ordinary people couldn't even step inside, and with the Patriarch guarding it personally, the place was tightly secured. Although he had left recently, the hazy door in the flames contained an incredibly powerful restriction. This restriction wasn't set by him, but was left by its owner. The strength of this restriction was so immense that even someone at the third step couldn't break through it in a short time. Upon arriving at the door, the Fire Sparrow Patriarch suppressed the excitement in his heart and knelt down with a soft thud. Lu Jinbiao's eyes widened at the sight. A third-step powerhouse, the Patriarch of the Fire Sparrow clan, was kneeling before the door. "Master, this old servant has captured the sixth-generation Vermilion Bird and presents him to you to help with your recovery." "Master." Lu Jinbiao's scalp went numb, and his eyes widened in shock. He stared at the blurry door, and an overwhelming storm surged in his heart. The master of a third-step powerhouse. This. The silence within the door lingered. The Fire Sparrow Patriarch knelt there for a long time, showing no impatience, remaining respectful and humble. The longer this continued, the more shocked Lu Jinbiao became. Subtly, it seemed as if he was waking up from the deception. He had been scared awake. Sixth-generation Vermilion Bird. After a while, an ethereal voice slowly drifted from within the door. The Fire Sparrow Patriarch's body trembled, his expression even more respectful, his eyes gleaming with excitement. He quickly replied, "This old servant has investigated thoroughly. I swallowed this person's blood and used soul-searching on him. There's no mistake. This person is the sixth-generation Vermilion Bird. Moreover, this old servant captured him in the land of falling stars." The voice inside seemed to fall silent again. As it did, an invisible pressure gradually enveloped the area, causing Lu Jinbiao's body to tremble. The arrogance in his eyes vanished, replaced by endless fear. He had been completely scared awake. "We've messed up. This is really bad." Lu Jinbiao's throat went dry, his eyes wide with terror, and his heart screamed madly. To be a servant to a third-step powerhouse, what kind of person is this? "Wang Lin sent me here, saying he could help me escape," but even if he comes, he will likely die. After a long period of silence, the ethereal voice once again slowly emerged from within the door. Bring him in. Lu Jinbiao's body immediately shook, and he opened his mouth to explain. But before he could say anything, the Fire Sparrow Patriarch immediately grabbed him and charged straight toward the blurry door. Everything happened too quickly. Lu Jinbiao hadn't even begun to speak before he felt his body shake violently as he was pulled into the door. The restriction on the door seemed to be suppressed and didn't trigger, allowing the Fire Sparrow Patriarch to enter freely. Upon entering, what Lu Jinbiao saw would be a scene he would never forget for the rest of his life. It was a starry sky, but without any sky or earth. The only thing present was a vast, raging flame. The flames took up 70% of the entire sky, and beneath its spread, the roaring sound of the fire could be heard. Beyond the flames, there were no star marks in the sky, only thick threads like arms extending from the void. These threads spread throughout the sky, forming a massive web. The fire was right at the center of this web. The threads appeared to be channels, with countless bulges wriggling within, all heading toward the central fire as if being absorbed by it. The flames burned with a 7-colored hue, no black or white. The 7-colored flames blazed fiercely, and deep within, a figure was seated cross-legged. This figure seemed to be wearing armor, and behind them, a 7-colored vermilion bird flickered. Withdraw, the ethereal voice echoed in the bizarre starry sky. A ball of 7-colored fire, about the size of a fist, flew out and directly entered the Fire Sparrow Patriarch's forehead. The Fire Sparrow Patriarch's body shook, and his eyes revealed wild joy. Go meditate and digest, the Fire Sparrow Patriarch said respectfully. He retreated and vanished into the starry sky. At this moment, only Lu Jinbiao and the figure within the flames remained in the eerie starry sky. Lu Jinbiao trembled. He could feel an oppressive pressure emanating from the flames where the figure sat, a pressure so suffocating it felt as though it could kill him 1,000 times over. You are not the 6th-generation Vermilion Bird. The ethereal voice slowly echoed, falling upon Lu Jinbiao's mind, causing his heart to lurch. A chill ran down his spine, his soul nearly flying out of his body. With a thud, Lu Jinbiao fell to his knees, his eyes filled with intense fear. Without thinking, he immediately begged for mercy. Great Immortal, spare my life. Spare my life. I am Lu Jinbiao, just a humble cultivator. I was forced by evil men to come here. If I didn't, I would lose my life. Please, Great Immortal, show mercy. I am willing to serve you, to work like a dog or a horse. But on your body, there is something that interests this lord. The ethereal voice interrupted Lu Jinbiao's words. Instantly, countless fine, thread-like passages around him rose up, coiling around his body. They pierced through his flesh, burrowing inside him. As they sucked, Lu Jinbiao let out a blood-curdling scream. His body rapidly withered at a visible rate, and a massive amount of blood was drawn out, forming bulges on the threads, rushing toward the flames. Not only was his blood drained, but his life force was also rapidly dissipating with each pull. In this desperate moment, Lu Jinbiao screamed in agony and spat out a burst of essence. The moment this essence was released, a torrent of sword chi erupted, and it transformed into a giant sword, created by Su Ligua. After its appearance, the sword didn't strike the flaming apparition. Instead, it spun violently, turning into a sword storm. Master, the passage is open. Su Ligua, who had appeared, was also terrified. His mind shook violently as he roared internally. It's all the damn star's fault. He thought the sacred land had the fire origin, but he didn't realize there's a living person here, one who's a slave to a third-step great power. Interesting. The ethereal voice seemed to smile as it slowly reverberated. In the land of falling stars, on the Emperor Star, Wang Lin sat cross-legged within the teleportation array, his mind merging with the wind and rain summoning realm, seeking the soul of Tian Yunzi. He fused with it, rapidly deducing the future. In that moment, his eyes suddenly snapped open, and a cruel glint flashed within them. He hadn't known about the healing person in the Fire Sparrow clan's sacred land before coming to the Emperor Star. But after speaking with the first-generation Vermilion Bird, Wang Lin understood. There was definitely someone there. At that time, if he had given up on his plan and allowed Lu Jinbiao and the others to return, it wouldn't have been impossible. But Wang Lin was consumed by a wild thought. The first-generation ancestor had once said that the healer was most likely the third-generation Sin Sparrow, a person whom the first-generation ancestor hated. If not for being unable to leave the celestial Fang realm, this ancestor would have personally entered the Fire Sparrow clan to end the Sin Sparrow's life. Though not explicitly stated, the conversation with the first-generation ancestor had made it clear that Wang Lin would be assisted in perfecting his plan. He could infiltrate the Fire Sparrow clan's sacred land, and the ancestor would even give him a vermilion feather treasure. Everything pointed to a problem. More importantly, the third-generation Sin Sparrow had another identity in the primordial stars. Wang Lin had speculated about this identity before, and now, he was almost certain. He was 70% sure. In fact, that answer was already 90% certain. A 70% certainty was enough to make him decide to undertake a world-shaking task. And with 90%, completing this task would allow him to leave the primordial realm and return to the sealing boundary. Having been injured by the first-generation Vermilion Bird and severely wounded by the mysterious cultivator's roar in the inner realm, she had to retreat and heal. She hasn't shown herself for tens of thousands of years, yet has secretly controlled the primordial realm, using one plot after another. Her daughter entered the inner realm to seduce Qing Lin, destroying the fire-sealing sovereign's 4 great immortal realms' devotional power. She joined forces with others to nearly destroy the sealing sovereign's physical body, almost causing his death. Anyone she sets her sights on in the inner realm is lured through any means, such as Si Maja, Qing Lin, and, if I'm not mistaken, even the Madden from the past, Qing Shui, must be deeply connected to her. More maliciously, she wants to seed her Dao. All of this is her handiwork. Now that she's badly injured and in seclusion, I can't miss this chance. Wang Lin's eyes gleamed with madness. What he was about to do was already a reckless act. The array's light suddenly flickered urgently, and in an instant, thunderous sounds erupted. The array spun rapidly, forming a vortex. With a mighty explosion, it vanished into the Emperor Star, and Wang Lin's figure disappeared without a trace. Old Vermilion Bird sat by the lake, opening his eyes and silently gazing at the place where Wang Lin had vanished. After a long while, he murmured softly, "First-generation ancestor, you always believed he was not one of our Vermilion Bird clan, even though he passed the trial. But I believe he is one of us. I didn't listen to your command, and I passed on the strongest Vermilion Bird technique to him. Because, after the trial, he was meant to obtain it." The figure in the 7-colored flames didn't stop Su Ligua's actions but instead spoke 3 words. Interesting. The moment those 3 words escaped, within the sword storm conjured by Su Ligua, a deafening roar erupted, as if a force surged from the void, sweeping towards Su Ligua's position, and from the vast sea of stars. It pinpointed his location and tore the storm apart. Under the thundering roar of the storm, it seemed as if 2 formless hands emerged from the void, tearing the space apart like an iron plate, pulling with immense force. The sound reverberated through the heavens and earth, and the storm split in 2, collapsing from the middle. Within the collapse, a massive crack appeared in the sky, lightning flashing within the rift, and flames rising to the heavens. Wang Lin's figure stepped out from the rift, 1 step forward. With white hair and clad in white robes, Wang Lin's eyes concealed a savage light. As he stepped forward, his gaze fell upon the figure sitting cross-legged within the multicolored flames. Sovereign. The multicolored flames blazed, and the figure inside seemed to open its eyes, revealing 2 ancient, weathered gazes that landed on Wang Lin. "I remember. You are Wang Lin." A vague voice echoed, reverberating through the ever-shifting world. Indeed, Wang Lin no longer concealed his identity. His expression became even more brutal. As he spoke, he swung his right hand, and immediately, a thunder diagram and 9 colored flames emerged, heading straight for Su Ligua. With a sweep, Su Ligua was instantly transported into Wang Lin's storage space. Under the rumbling thunder of the diagram, accompanied by the 9 colored flames, it neared Lu Jinbiao, spreading into a massive hand crackling with thunder and fire, seizing Lu Jinbiao. With a violent pull, it yanked Lu Jinbiao free from the countless tentacles and sent him into the storage space. The figure in the multicolored flames did not stop this act. "Very well. I sense Qing Lin, Qing Shui, and that Si Maja's presence within you. You know I am here, yet you still dare to come. It must be the old Vermilion Bird from a generation ago who gave you the courage. Or perhaps you think that, despite my grievous injuries, I have not recovered all these years, thus provoking your prying eyes." Exactly. A murderous glint flashed in Wang Lin's eyes, and the brutality deepened. Stepping forward, he charged toward the multicolored flames, and from his left eye, the 9-colored flame erupted violently, turning into a storm of 9-colored, illusory fire that directly slammed forward. His right eye flashed with thunder, the thunder diagram reappearing, surrounded by 9 colored flames, transforming into 9 ancient thunder dragons. Within the diagram, a rift appeared, leading to the primordial thunder realm. With a flick of his left hand, Wang Lin made a gesture, and in that moment, the scent of grass and trees filled the air, spreading across the sky. Countless forests emerged in the starry sky, and suddenly, the ancient wood spirit sat up from thin air, roaring and charging toward the multicolored flames. Bloodlight surged into the sky, turning into a blood sword that sped toward the flames as Wang Lin pointed. With a gesture from Wang Lin's hands, his entire cultivation erupted in an explosive wave, spreading outwards, creating a forceful shockwave that rapidly approached. All of this unfolded in the blink of an eye, impossibly fast. In the next instant, Wang Lin unleashed almost all of his divine abilities and treasures, attacking the multicolored flames. The figure in the flames laughed long and hard, the laugh filled with desolation. "You were right. I am indeed gravely injured, but by bringing heaven-defying, you have given me the hope of recovery." The figure raised its right hand. It was unclear what the hand looked like in detail, but a faint glimpse showed it was armored. "I have walked the path of cultivation for so long, many have hated me to the core, but in the end, no one has ever been able to kill me. You are excellent, but not yet worthy. I will only use one technique." The figure within the multicolored flames raised its right hand and grabbed toward the sky. "This world, this realm, can be seen as a well." With these words, the entire starry sky trembled. Below, ripples appeared, and a mist of water spread, as an indescribable force rapidly expanded and transformed the sky into the surface of a water body. If one were to look from the highest point downwards, they would clearly see that the water surface was, in fact, a well. Within the well, all things exist. Your divine abilities, your treasures, even your body, all exist within this well. As the starry sky turned into a water surface, ripples spread across it. The calmness that followed reflected everything above it. The water surface reflected Wang Lin's flame storm, his immortal thunder diagram, and the ancient wood spirit. At the center, the figure of Wang Lin stood, radiating light. This eerie scene, if witnessed by anyone else, would undoubtedly leave them stunned, for the water surface reflected everything except the multicolored flames. At a glance, it was almost impossible to tell whether the surface of the water or what lay beneath was real. At that moment, Wang Lin's body froze in midair, his entire body halted. Even his treasures suspended in the air stopped, as if his soul was being drawn in by the water surface. Wang Lin could clearly feel that the figure within the water surface formed by the starry sky seemed to be himself. It was a very mysterious feeling, yet it was extremely real. This divine art of mine is moon fishing in the well. There was no moon in the well to begin with. Even if one appeared, it would merely be a reflection of the moon in the sky. But in the words of the figure within the 7 colored flames, it transformed into an earth-shattering divine art. Moon fishing in the well. At the moment the words were spoken, the figure in the 7 colored flames lowered its right hand, reaching out casually toward the water surface below. The moment its hand grasped, ripples spread across the water, and the figure of Wang Lin reflected in the water was abruptly pulled out by the hand that reached down. It wasn't water that was drawn up, but a struggling Wang Lin. However, this Wang Lin's eyes were filled with an intense, violent gleam. Wang Lin's mind tightened. "I see the moon in the well is beautiful, and I wish to possess it. Now I have it." The figure in the 7 colored flames, with the right hand pulling back, gripped Wang Lin tightly within its palm. "He is you." The 7 colored flames roared, spreading outward, revealing the blurry figure within. It became clearer, showing the distinct face of a middle-aged man with a calm demeanor, his face pale. This man was handsome and had an ethereal aura. He didn't look at Wang Lin. Instead, he calmly gazed at the Wang Lin caught in his hand from the well. "See? Killing you is actually quite easy." This middle-aged man was clad in a strange gray armor, which seemed to have grown into his skin, as if it were part of his body. Moon fishing in the well. What was fished out was a soul. "It seems you are gravely injured." Wang Lin spoke slowly. The moment his words left his lips, his expression was no longer the violent one it had been earlier, but one of calmness. The middle-aged man holding the Wang Lin pulled from the water immediately showed a flicker of surprise in his eyes. Under this moon fishing in the well technique, anyone reflected in the water should have lost all physical power and would never be able to speak. Yet, Wang Lin's words clearly reached the middle-aged man's ears. As Wang Lin spoke, he stepped forward, his right hand raised. With a wave, a Vermilion Bird feather appeared in his hand. With a single swing, the feather immediately erupted with flames, sweeping across the sky. Looking up, the sky had turned into a sea of fire. The thunderous sounds of roaring flames echoed, making the firestorm burn furiously, as if enraged. The middle-aged man squeezed his right hand tightly, and the Wang Lin he was holding let out a horrifying scream as his body exploded, dying instantly. Wang Lin trembled, his face turning pale, but his body did not stop for a moment. He raised his right hand and pointed to the sky, reciting the incantation passed down by the first-generation Vermilion Bird. In a low voice, he called out, "I, sixth-generation Vermilion Bird, with the grace of the Vermilion Bird feather, summon the Vermilion Bird clan's source spirit to descend from the ancient primordial realm." The heavens and earth rumbled. The moment Wang Lin's words left his lips, the middle-aged man suddenly stood up, his gaze flashing as a cold voice echoed, "I truly underestimated you. You actually prepared so thoroughly before coming here, using a fragment of a demonic soul to replace your own." Good. Wang Lin remained silent. Before coming here, he had fused with the soul of Tian Yunzi and began a crazy chain of deductions, much like before his battle with Waterpath Master. He had faintly sensed a blurry omen. This omen was a life-or-death crisis, one related to the soul. Wang Lin's life had been filled with danger, relying on his sharp wit and caution. Since he dared to scheme against the injured Palm Sovereign, he naturally prepared thoroughly. He had even planned several escape routes. As a precaution, he had erased the ancient demon's consciousness and replaced it with his own soul, making it his true soul. The moon fishing in the well technique was domineering, its power immense. However, what it had fished out was the ancient demon's soul, not Wang Lin's. Only a being like Wang Lin, an ancient god, could accomplish this. If anyone else had tried, they would have collapsed under the technique, and it would have been noticed immediately. But since the ancient demon and the ancient god shared the same origin, this perfect replacement could be made. Moreover, the Palm Sovereign was severely wounded and had underestimated Wang Lin. Otherwise, Wang Lin wouldn't have succeeded. But even if he failed, Wang Lin had already prepared his backup plan and would never act recklessly. In the vast sea of flames, the moment Wang Lin's words calling upon the Vermilion Bird source spirit echoed, the fire in the sky erupted. The raging firestorm surged, and in the center, above Wang Lin, a massive vortex appeared. As soon as this fiery whirlpool appeared, it seemed to transform into a black hole, opening a gateway to a mysterious world. In the instant the vortex black hole appeared, a Vermilion Bird's cry roared out from within, shaking the heavens. The sound of the Vermilion Bird was earth-shattering. The moment it emerged, Wang Lin felt a shock that sent his heart racing. For times awakened Vermilion Birds materialized around his body, their eyes filled with awe. It seemed that Wang Lin's own Vermilion Bird essence had an instinctual fear of this sound. The middle-aged man in the seven-colored flames had his own seven-colored Vermilion Bird behind him. It let out a shrill cry, and its eyes, too, were filled with fear as it dared not take flight. This scene was too sudden. The middle-aged man's pupils constricted. The old fool actually sent this thing to kill me. Amidst the thunderous cry of the Vermilion Bird, an incredibly terrifying pressure exploded from the sky and the fiery vortex, descending upon the world. The pressure caused the temperature to rise dramatically, turning the area into a fiery hell. In the midst of this pressure, a terrifying scene unfolded in the fire-filled sky that Wang Lin would never forget. A gigantic Vermilion Bird's beak descended from the vortex, filling half the sky. The pressure surged once more, multiplying exponentially. Vermilion Bird source spirit. That single feather was the treasure of the first-generation Vermilion Bird, and it was the only one of its kind. What was summoned was not the Vermilion Bird cultivated by the Vermilion Bird clan's disciples, but the real, living Vermilion Bird from the homeland of the first-generation Vermilion Bird. The Vermilion Bird's beak roared down from the vortex, stirring the fire sea beneath the sky. As it descended, the fiery sea took on a convex shape, with the beak at the bottom. As it sank, the flames surged. Its speed was beyond imagination, diving straight toward the middle-aged man in the seven-colored flames, aiming to strike him fiercely. In this process, the entire sky transformed into the massive head of the Vermilion Bird. The bird's brilliance was astounding, and its eyes blazed with fiery fury. Wang Lin, at a glance, instantly recognized that its expression resembled the first-generation Vermilion Bird. The heavens rumbled incessantly as the massive Vermilion Bird's beak, dominating the sky, descended rapidly within 100 meters of the seven-colored flames. This scene was comparable to the finger of an ancient god, but its might surpassed that by far. To describe it, only an ancient god of the 8 stars or higher could hope to resist. Within the seven-colored flames, the middle-aged man let out a roar of fury. With a wave of his hands, the seven-colored flames around him erupted into the sky, transforming into a vermilion bird that charged toward the incoming beak. The thunderous collision shook the earth. The moment the seven-colored vermilion bird touched the descending beak, it emitted a tragic shriek, shattering in an instant. The middle-aged man spat out a mouthful of blood, his expression twisted in rage. He made a hand seal and sharply shouted, "Earth, water, fire, wind." His words reverberated in all directions. At the earth word, a vast land appeared beneath his feet. At the water word, a roaring sea surged upon the land. At the fire word, the sea of water ignited, flames of 7 colors engulfing it, blazing into the sky. With the last word, wind, a wild gale howled, sweeping across the flames. For great emptiness. The middle-aged man's expression twisted in fury, and with a powerful shove, the wind roared forward, heading straight for the vermilion bird's beak. After the wind came the raging flames, followed by the torrential sea, and finally, the land, which pierced through the middle-aged man's body, rising into the sky like a stone that sealed the heavens. This scene left Wang Lin stunned. The power the middle-aged man wielded was far beyond that of Water Path Master or Sea Maja. His cultivation was incredibly formidable, especially the 4 Great Emptiness technique. If it collided with the vermilion bird's beak, the resulting impact would be enough to destroy the entire Fire Sparrow clan's sacred land. Even Wang Lin might not survive. Unless, of course, he could unleash a similar divine technique to counter the impending world-destroying shockwave. Alternatively, he could choose to use his previously prepared escape route, leaving the outer realm and returning to the inner realm. However, this was the best opportunity to severely injure or even kill the Palm Sovereign. If he missed it, such a chance would likely never come again. Wang Lin, who had always sought survival amidst danger, would never let such an opportunity slip by. He intended to destroy the Lightning Thunder clan in the outer realm and carry out an earth-shattering, world-shaking event that would astonish the entire primordial era. Kill the Palm Sovereign. What a ruthless first-generation Vermilion Bird. A cold light flashed in Wang Lin's eyes. The first-generation Vermilion Bird had lived for far too long. Its schemes were deeper than Wang Lin could compare. Although he had now understood its entire plan, he still fell a step short. The second-generation ancestor suddenly transmitted me the strongest technique of the Vermilion Bird clan. Clearly, he saw through all of this and sent it to help me. Wang Lin did not hesitate. His hands suddenly rose, swiftly forming seals. First breath. The middle-aged man approached the Vermilion Bird beak, and a roaring sound echoed through the heavens and earth. The wind exploded. As the Vermilion Bird beak trembled, flames erupted, followed by countless thunderous crashes. A shockwave spread in all directions, surging outward. Wang Lin unleashed his first set of hand seals. In front of him, the colors of heaven and earth shifted, and a gigantic fire bone appeared out of thin air. Second breath. Rainbow flames surged up, clashing once more with the Vermilion Bird beak. The heavens and earth shook, and the Vermilion Bird beak quivered violently. The rainbow flames exploded into pieces. The second wave of shock swept across the world. Wang Lin's second set of hand seals erupted. On the massive firebone before him, umbrella spokes emerged. The third and fourth breaths passed in an instant, as the ocean roared, crashing towards the descending Vermilion Bird beak. With a deafening sound, the seawater turned into endless vapor, spiraling outward. The front of the Vermilion Bird beak shattered, and the Vermilion Bird let out a sharp screech, opening its mouth to release a breath of energy from its stomach. This breath surged outward, heading straight for the final repair of heaven and earth. The deafening roar reverberated, as an unprecedentedly intense sound erupted in the Fire Sparrow clan's sacred land, creating an earth-shattering noise. The Palm Sovereign's roar accompanied the internal force, and the Vermilion Bird beak collapsed with a thunderous crash. At the moment of its collapse, the third wave of shock expanded outward, tearing countless rifts in the starry sky. Violent energy waves spread across the stars, and under these repeated shocks, the Fire Sparrow clan's sacred land began to crumble. The breath released by the Vermilion Bird source spirit fell onto the approaching earth, causing countless cracks to appear instantly. The earth seemed on the verge of collapsing when the Palm Sovereign spat out a mouthful of blood, turning it into red mist and directly propelling the earth upward, towards the sky. The earth, soaked in the red mist, stopped disintegrating and, with an unstoppable momentum, began to mend the heavens. The ground trembled violently as the vast, cracked earth surged toward the sky, covering the fiery sea in the sky and sealing the massive whirlpool where the Vermilion Bird source spirit had appeared. The starry sky trembled. Waves of shockwaves tore through it, causing everything to collapse in an instant. The Palm Sovereign spat out more blood, his face growing even paler. He abruptly turned around, his eyes full of rage as he glared at Wang Lin and stepped forward. Wang Lin was struck by the shockwave, blood spilling from his mouth, but his hands moved even faster. He desperately struggled, continuously forming hand seals. Around him, over 1,000,000 hand seals appeared, flashing frantically. The approaching Palm Sovereign's expression changed drastically upon seeing this. Damn it, that old man actually taught you this technique. Without hesitation, he stepped toward Wang Lin, but just as he arrived, the ancient wood spirit released by Wang Lin appeared in front of him, rushing toward the approaching Palm Sovereign. The Palm Sovereign's expression twisted with fury. He raised his right hand and swung forward fiercely. An immense force surged up, forming a giant palm seal that descended like the sun, aiming to crush the ancient wood spirit. The sound of impact echoed as the ancient wood spirit quivered. The palm seal pierced through its body, heading straight for Wang Lin. At this moment, the ninth breath arrived. Wang Lin's right hand formed the final seal. His hands, bloodied and torn, could barely move after completing this final gesture. Nearly 2,000,000 hand seals appeared around Wang Lin, and as they all completed, they instantly merged into a fiery storm, surging into the sky. This merged with the firebone umbrella frame, forming a massive, unspread, ancient umbrella capable of burning the world. Ancient umbrella unfolds to annihilate the world. Wang Lin's eyes turned blood red as he unleashed the Fire Sparrow clan's strongest technique at the moment the palm seal was about to land. Though he had just learned this technique, Wang Lin was originally of the Vermilion Bird lineage and had cultivated the sealing arts, allowing him to quickly perform the hand seals. Hence, he was able to unleash it. However, his understanding was still shallow, and as a result, the power was somewhat weaker. But even with reduced strength, this grand divine art was enough to shake the heavens. A mouthful of blood spurted out, and Wang Lin could clearly feel his life force rapidly draining away, absorbed by the ancient umbrella and transformed into power to support the umbrella. Umbrella unfolds to annihilate the world. Wang Lin roared to the sky, swinging his hands fiercely. Excitement was the best medicine, and pressure was the driving force behind miracles. In 3 hours, I forced myself to finish writing, pouring out all my passion.